corresponding with them. And the letters of Tobiah came unto them. And Tobiah, we'll find out, had married into a prominent family of Judah. This will cause problems when we get to the last chapter of Nehemiah, chapter 13. These nobles of Judah reminded me, you may recall back in chapter 3, verse 5, when they were assigning who was going to do what section of the wall as far as rebuilding it. They had there the men of Tekoa, but their nobles would not put their neck to the work of the Lord. They were a little too noble to do the work of the Lord. So they're in cahoots with the enemy here, Tobiah. Verse 18, for there were many in Judah sworn unto him, because he was the son-in-law of Shechaniah, the son of Ariah, also connected with the high priest Eliashib, as we'll see in chapter 13. And his son Johanan had taken the daughter of Meshullam, the son of Berechiah. And when we get to chapter 13, we'll see that they even made a chamber within the temple of God for Tobiah. You're not going to believe where his chamber was. It was in the treasury. And Tobiah was ripping off the tithes that were to go to the priest. It got such a bad point that the priests had to go to work in the fields to support their families so they'd have enough to eat, because Tobiah was stealing all the tithes that would have been to support the priest family.
You can install Windows XP for this mail
don't give up easily.
forever.
If you're doing God's work, and these enemies, once they're an enemy, don't trust
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old.
In the temple of God, and right under their noses, he's stealing the tithes, making sure that God's work isn't done. See, it was the priest's duty to do God's work. And if they're out picking cotton or whatever else they have to do in the fields to support their families and feed their families, they're not in Jerusalem doing God's work. So the enemy has accomplished their will to some extent. Verse 19. Also, they reported his good deeds before me. They told me what a good old boy Tobiah was. He doesn't really mean you any harm, Nehemiah. And uttered my words to him. And Tobiah sent letters to put me in fear, attempting to make Nehemiah afraid. Again, that wasn't Nehemiah's style at all. Nehemiah was a very good leader, and he proved that back in chapter 5. You remember when he said, you're charging usury to the common people, and I could have been taking corn and food from all of you as my right and privilege as the governor of Judah. But I knew those people didn't have enough to put food on the table for their own families. So I didn't take what was rightfully mine. So Nehemiah was a good leader, a very righteous man, and he wasn't one to have his knees start knocking because of fear. Tobiah will find that out. Chapter 7 and that chapter 6 kind of in summary, I want to say one more thing on it, and that is that don't ever forget that if you are working to accomplish God's word, what lengths the enemy will go to accomplish their will. And it's not the will of God. So for every one of them that perseveres, you better be ready to persevere for the Lord as well. Chapter 7, and we're going to be skipping a big section of chapter 7 because it's a genealogy that was covered in Ezra chapters 1 and 2 as well. But let's pick it up, chapter 7, verse 1. Now it came to pass when the wall was built, and I had set up the doors and the gates of the wall, and the porters and the singers and the Levites were appointed. Now, normally the doorkeepers, the Levites, would only be assigned to security, if you will, of the temple, but with everything, the circumstances that have been going on, unusual situations that have developed, Nehemiah is signing security to the gates of the city as well at this point in time. Verse 2, that I gave my brother Hanani, and he must have returned to
Corazón, que se lo que si yo soy de salvación, que se lo que si desde la dímelo, porque tu amor estoy muriendo, yo la dímelo, bendímelo, porque tu amor estoy muriendo, yo la dímelo. Porque tu amor estoy muriendo, yo estoy viviendo. Dímelo. Porque tu amor estoy muriendo, yo la dímelo. Porque tu amor estoy muriendo, yo no me dejes solo con mi corazón, que sé lo que si lo soy de salvación, que sé lo que si les de la vida. Porque tu amor estoy muriendo, yo la dímelo. Dímelo. Porque tu amor estoy muriendo, yo dímelo. Dímelo. Tu amor estoy muriendo, yo no te dejes solo con mi corazón, que sé lo que si lo soy de salvación, que sé lo que si les de la dímelo, porque tu amor estoy muriendo, yo dímelo. Tell me, baby girl, because I need to know, porque tu amor estoy muriendo, yo. For someone who has ill-gotten gains to enter the kingdom of heaven, and what he was talking about.